Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transition Tuesdays. For this Tuesday, September 10th, 2019, I am your host, Russ Williams. I'm glad you could be here today. I'm quite aware you could have been anywhere in this world today. You could have been anywhere in this world today, but you decided to be here with me, and I appreciate that. And more importantly, I appreciate you. So welcome to Transition Tuesdays on this lovely Tuesday here in New York City. We got a lot to do today. We got a special guest joining us on the phone today. And let me just start the show really quick. Let me introduce my co-host, who just happens to be my mom. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss May is back in the house. Miss May, Ma, how are you?
Oh, very well.
Doing good?
Doing good.
Good. Perfect. All right. So
hello, everyone.
There you go. That's right. You got to do your signature call. I'm sorry, Ma. Absolutely. Yeah. So no, we got a special show today, Ma. I'm glad, you missed last week's show, but I'm glad you're here for this one.
Oh, yes.
Cool. We got William joining us. Welcome, William, to Transition Tuesday. So, hey, let's get the show started here, ladies and gentlemen. I got my special guest on the line. Special guest, you there, sir?
I'm here, Russ.
All right, perfect. Let me give my special guest this great introduction that he definitely deserves here, ladies and gentlemen. My special guest is an iconic sports science figure of the NBA, as he was the head athletic trainer for the Los Angeles Lakers for well over 3 decades.
Wow.
He worked alongside Laker greats like Jerry West, Pat Riley, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and countless others. He joins us today to discuss his best-selling book, 32 Years of Titles and Tears from the Best Seat in the House. Ladies and gentlemen, Transition Army, please help me welcome Mr. Gary Vitti to Transition Tuesdays. Let's clap it up for Gary. GV, how are you doing today, sir?
I've never been better in my life, Russ. Thank you for having me.
No problem. We're glad that you're here, man. We're glad that you're here. We're going to, talk about the book and some other things as well. But I'm glad we can steal a couple of minutes from you because I know you're on book tour, doing your thing with the book. So, hey, Gary, I just, just lead in with some questions for you. I just started reading your book, 32 Years of Titles and Tears from the Best Seat in the House. And I just want to just go on record to say that you seem to be a great storyteller. I've heard that, you being a great storyteller. So Gary, what made you decide now to tell your amazing story? Like, why now?
Well, it's the only time that I had to do it. Like when you read the book, there are things in there, clips in there about how totally encompassing it is to be the head trainer of an NBA team. Mm-hmm. And there's very little time to do anything else, and that includes your family. We make great sacrifices, and our families make great sacrifices to allow us to have the honor of working for a franchise like the Los Angeles Lakers. Mm-hmm. And I just never had the time. I also really didn't even have the time to keep a journal, which in the book I do suggest that people do, because I think everyone has a book in them. Mm-hmm. And
this is true.
And you don't have to write in it every day. It doesn't have to be like a labor. Mm-hmm. But when things happen, whether they're good, they're bad, or they're funny, jot them down, because someday you may want to go back to those memories. Some will be fond memories, some will be sad memories, as the title suggests. Mm-hmm. And I think I even mentioned in the book that I'm sure I have forgotten more than I remembered.
That's a wealth of knowledge right there.
Well, I had a good run, man. 32 years. We went to the finals 12 times, and we won it 8. Man. And it was just a good run. I was very lucky, very fortunate guy.
Man, yeah, and I would imagine, being the head athletic trainer, like you said, it consumes your life. Like, I remember reading a little bit about it. Like, sometimes you forget, like, you woke up and you found you weren't sure which city you're in. You just like the players.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's an occupational hazard. There's times that you go to the wrong room in your hotel. You're you're sort of on autopilot a lot, and
Uh-huh.
and you go to a room. Let's just pick a number. You go to room 510.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's the room. That's the room you stayed at last night in another city.
Right.
And you stick your key in the door and it doesn't work, and then you have to figure out what room you're in. It helped a little bit with cell phones because NBA people got in the habit of you get to your room sometimes 3, 3, 4 in the morning because you're coming in after a game from another city, and so. You got your key packet in your hand. It's got the room number on it. You open the door, you go in, and then the next day when you leave to go to shoot around, you just take the key.
Right.
You don't take the key packet, so you don't remember what room you're in. And one of the things that I suggested that people do is take your camera, your phone, take a picture. As you're opening the door, take a picture of the room number so you know what room to come back to after shoot around.
That's good words of advice. Absolutely, yeah. Because I like that too. Sometimes, we're going from hotel to hotel, and you're like, man, I forget what room I was in. But if I take a picture, like you just stated there, Gary, I'll probably be all right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whirlwind. An NBA season is a whirlwind, and particularly in my position, I was either in the present or the future. Very little in the past, which goes back to like keeping a journal, which unfortunately I did not, because you're always looking towards the next game,
right?
You're looking towards the next week, the next month. You're bringing a player back. You're looking at the schedule. There's a lot of thought that goes into return to play. For instance, you want to bring a player back onto the court after they've been out with an injury, so you can put him in the best position to succeed.
Right.
If he has to come back and guard Steph Curry, that might not be the best thing. Let's take another day off, another game off, and see if we can ease him out of the closet, sort of thing.
Right.
So you're always looking at the schedule. You're looking at the future, the present, and the future. The past is gone. There's nothing I can do about that. Other than as I was exiting the league, I retired 3 years ago. We started looking a lot more at what they're calling load management now.
Right.
And that has to do with the past. So, and we could talk about this if you want to go into how we determine load in the NBA today.
Okay.
But load has a lot to do with what happened in the past. How many minutes did you play? How much ground did you cover? How much distance did you cover? Which is one of the big variables in determining load. How far did you run?
Gotcha. I remember looking at Tim Duncan. I remember seeing in the box score one time, speaking of load management, I remember they had in a box score for him, like, it didn't say, he had a DMP, did not play, DMP. Yeah. And the reason they gave was they just put one word, old.
Yeah, that was, Pop is the one that started it. Popovich is the one that
really. He's the one that started the load management.
Yeah, he's the one that started it. His philosophy was there's only one thing that's important, and that is winning the championship. All the games that are prior to that, put you in a position to lead to win the championship or to get there, and the best way to do that is to manage the load of a player. Now that's sort of a controversial way of managing your team, because you got people that are paying a lot of money to see your superstars play, and then they end up sitting on the bench. That's almost not fair either. So the league has changed quite a bit. There is a great deal of pride in playing 82 games back in the 80s.
Absolutely.
It's a different vibe now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely true. Yeah. Hey, so Gary, speaking about athletics, like how were you athletically? Did you play college athletics or high school athletics at all growing up, or?
Yeah, I think that's chapter 3, man.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, we don't want to give more stuff away. I got you.
Yeah, I was a very good athlete in three sports. sports: football, baseball, basketball.
Wow.
Like everybody, like every other kid, I guess at the grammar school level, I was one of the better kids. But as soon as I got into high school, all of the grammar schools basically were channeled into just a couple of high schools. So all that talent, that was spread out to lots of different teams was now, channeled into just a couple of schools. And so I kind of went from, I was too small to play football. I was the last cut in baseball, but I made the JV basketball team.
Okay.
My freshman year in high school. And, you need to read the book, but it was a 1-year career. It was horrible. I couldn't wait till it was over. The coach, and I just didn't get along for whatever reason, and he tried to make me quit. I wouldn't quit, but my whole goal was just to, make it to the end of the season. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. I just kept telling myself that you never have to play again, but you can't quit.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And so, it's sort of unlikely that the kid with the fledgling high school career ended up, being with the flagship franchise of the NBA and walking away with 8 rings in his career.
That's right. You get the last laugh on that, Gary.
Yeah, I suppose. Like the title of the book is Titles and Tears. It wasn't all laughs, man. I mean, it was, it looks like it's all fun, but it's a job, brother. I mean, we went to work every day, and there was a lot of stress. A lot went into it. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but you pay the price. I mean, to be in professional sports, there's a price to be paid.
Sure, pay the price to to be the best and be an innovator. Yeah, that's so true. Hey, so Gary, can you tell us a little about how you got the head athletic training position for the Los Angeles Lakers back in 1985? Like, how did that evolve? Because that's a pretty fascinating story. If you could just share with us, how were you able to get that?
Yeah. So I came out of college in 1976, and I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I did not go through my undergrad program, in sports medicine. And so I came out and basically joined the corporate world.
Okay.
And I was out there for 3 years. The last job that I had, corporate job, was with Johnson & Johnson. So I started in the healthcare industry. I really looked at what my future was going to be like in the corporate world, and it just wasn't me. I was making good money, but I really felt like kind of empty inside. So other than making money, I really didn't enjoy the job. So I started looking at other things to do. And my sister was a librarian. And this is good information for the young people out there that are looking for careers. The government actually puts out these predictions of where the jobs are going to be in the future. And believe it or not, now we're talking about 1979. So I graduated in 76, and I worked for 3 years. In 79, there was supposed to be this big future in meteorology. And I said to myself, I've always been pretty good in the sciences, and chasing the weather sounds like a fun, interesting thing to do. Why don't I do that? And so I applied. And one of the top schools in the country for meteorology was the University of Utah. I had never been west. I'm a East Coast kid like you. I grew up 40 minutes from the center of Manhattan. I said, you know what? Let me go west. And so I got into the U, and a meteorology program is filled with math and physics. It's math on top of physics, on top of math, on top of physics. And, I could do the work, but I got to tell you, the kids that were in that program were real brainiacs. And so it became sort of drudgery for me. And I almost immediately, starting the program, thought, boy, I think you made a mistake. And all my friends and all my family back east, they didn't want to see me leave, our hometown. They want to stay home, stay close to home. So I couldn't call them and moan about it. And so I had a couple of friends that I went to undergrad with that ended up at UCLA as swim coaches.
Okay.
And one became a famous Olympic water polo coach by the name of Rich Corso. Anybody that's played water polo knows that name.
Okay.
And so I drove from Salt Lake to LA over Christmas break and hung out with these guys for a couple of days, and then we all flew back to New York to visit our families. And on the way to the airport, they gave me a book, and it was one of the first sports medicine books that came out by a guy by the name of Dr. Gabe Merkin, and it was actually called the Sports Medicine book.
Okay.
I read the whole book on the plane, and I said, this is what I want to do with my life. So
wow.
I went, I had Christmas break at home, came back to the U, went back to, my meteorology classes. I couldn't drop out of school, so I kept doing that. But I visited the training room, and I called the head trainer, and he was a really wonderful guy, Bill Bean. He became my mentor in life. And I told him my dilemma, and he was great. He said, come and hang around, see if it's what you want to do. He says, this program is full. We can't get you in here, but it'll give you an idea. So, every free moment I would go to the training room and just stand in the corner. I wouldn't touch anything. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I don't want to bother anybody. I was just an observer, but I was a very dedicated observer.
Right.
And so, it's an interesting thing. If you hang around a place long enough, you sort of become part of the fabric of that place. And that's what happened. And so one day, if you've ever been in a Division I football locker room on a practice day, it's insane. I mean, these guys are big. There's a lot of testosterone flying around. They're crazy. And so it was one of those days trying to get, 100 guys ready for practice. I mean, 60 guys dressed, but on any given day you have 100 football players on a Division I team. And so some big guy asked me to get something, and I didn't want to disturb anything, but I went over to Bill and I said, that big guy over there asked me to get him something. And Russ, it was benign. It might have been like a Band-Aid. I don't remember what it was.
Right.
I said, I know what he wants, but I don't want to, He goes, no, do it. Just get it for him. And so I did. And with that one sort of simple step, I actually did something in the training room. The same year that I moved to Salt Lake, the New Orleans Jazz moved to Salt Lake City and became the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
So soon after, now he already told me I can't get into the program. Soon after, there's a huge snowfall up in the mountain. And a bunch of the student athletic trainers blew their shifts off. Okay? They went skiing. They called in sick.
Okay.
And the head trainer, Bill Bean, he knew they weren't sick. Okay, he knew they blew off their shifts. Which, I mean, they had jobs to do. That took the strain on everyone else. And so he kicked a couple of guys out of the program, which made room for me. I was a little bit older. I was, I think, probably about 27 at the time.
Okay.
And he let me in, and then I became a football trainer, a football and baseball trainer. Okay. But it was the time when Chambers and Vrains and Pace Mannion, they were at the U. These guys all went into the NBA, and so I would be in the training room with some of those guys, even though I was a football trainer. And the Jazz called and say, hey, do you have a young person that would like to come down and help us out? And so Bean sent me down there, and so I started working for the Jazz. Soon after that, they fired Paul Westhead. They hired Pat Riley.
Right.
And Pat Riley went from the broadcast booth to being the head coach. And when he player, one of the scouts was Bill Burka.
Okay.
Well, Bill Burka became the first general manager of the Utah Jazz, and he was the first assistant on the jazz bench, and so he got to know me.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, several years later, now we fast forward to 1984,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on my PhD now in sports medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and Riley and Burka are talking about getting a new athletic trainer, and Bert goes, there was this guy that used to help the Jazz out. He was working on his PhD in Utah. That's the guy you should talk to.
Mm. Okay.
And so Riley, Burka went to Riley. Riley went to Jerry West, and Jerry West's office called me. At that point, I had left the University of Utah. I was at the University of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I was the head guy up there,
Okay.
and they said, we'd like to talk to you, and they flew me down first class. I had never flown first class before, and believe it or not, Jerry West picked me up in a navy blue Mercedes with tan interior.
So Jerry West picked you up from the airport?
I believe it or not, Jerry West picked me up at the airport. He was standing curbside next to his Mercedes. He's probably the only guy in L.A. that the airport police would let park curbside. And he drove me to the fabulous Forum, and they just happened to be playing Spain for the gold medal game in the 1984 Olympics.
Oh, yeah, that's right. With Michael Jordan and all those guys, right?
So, well, he was 92.
92, okay, gotcha.
84.
Well, okay, 84, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 84 Olympics was in L.A. So I'm in the Forum as they're getting ready to play the gold medal game, interviewing with Jerry West and Pat Riley. It was a electric day for me. It was sort of like on a magic carpet ride. And a few days later, they called me and offered me the job, and I took it, and I spent more than half of my life as the head athletic trainer for the LA Lakers.
Man, so your idol, the logo picked you up from the airport. So you're chilling, you're doing that, and then you're hired like 2 days later, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yep.
Man, that is amazing.
I tell the story in the book. I mean, I
Right.
just gave you the Reader's Digest version, but if you read the book, it tells you what my feelings were at the time, because I really looked at myself as wanting to be in academia the rest of my life, being in front of a classroom,
Right.
Doing research. I did not see myself going back into professional basketball, having done a short, 2-year stint with the Utah Jazz. It was not my career goal, believe it or not.
Right, gotcha. Hey, Gary, I just want to, the guy John, he just paraphrased for us. He said Jordan did play in the '84 Olympics. That was his coming out. I remember that team. I think that team was coached by Bobby Knight. I think that particular one, the '84 Olympics. I know Jordan played in the '92 Olympics, but the '84 Olympics, I think he played in that too. I think in Los Angeles, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. He was an amateur then. I was thinking of the Dream Team with Jordan in '92.
I got you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, John. We appreciate you, my man. Hey, Gary, my mom has a question for you. Mom, you had a question for Gary?
Oh, I do have a question for Gary. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, happy to have you. I see you grew up in Connecticut. Could
Yes,
you
ma'am.
ever consider moving back to the East Coast?
Too cold, Mama.
Or have you totally gone Hollywood on us?
Oh, did you hear that, Gary? She said, can you move back to the East Coast, or have you totally gone Hollywood on us? That was the question my mom had.
The answer is no and no. No, there's no way that I would move back. I love visiting. I love the vibe of the city. My mother's still alive. She's 98 years old.
Oh, God bless her.
Great.
God bless her. That's great.
My sisters live back there, all my family. I have friends there. I love to visit. But I'm not a Hollywood guy either. I'm a beach guy. I live in Manhattan Beach. I don't live in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, I rarely leave the beach area. I have everything I need right here. So no, I'm not a Hollywood guy, but Mama, I'm not coming back. It's just too cold back there.
You used to that good weather in California, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
But it's nice out here.
Yeah, it's nice,
on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not LA though, Ma. It's not California. It's not Hollywood.
Not Hollywood.
Good place to visit, right, Gary?
That's right. It's a great place to visit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, let's rewind to the late 80s, early 90s at the Fabulous Forum. I know you touched upon, at the Fabulous Forum. And I just want to recap for people out there watching, in the 80s and the 90s, LA was known for Showtime. You had the Laker girls. And then you also had the Forum Club. That was big, right? It's kind of like the version of Studio 54 here in the East Coast. So, hey, Gary, if you can a little bit, man, if you could touch upon, I just want to touch upon the Forum Club, because that was the it place to be after the game. So I want to know, were you a member at the Forum Club, or did you have to chase the players out of there, once the game was over with? Because I know you wore many hats. Not just you being the trainer, but you also was the traveling secretary. You probably had to make sure all the players were, in and out of the place. So, were you a member of the Forum Club there, the Fabulous Forum?
Listen, brother, there's nothing in the book about the Forum Club. Okay? You're trying to get me in trouble.
Oh, so I got to scoop it. Okay.
You're Hollywood now. Gary, you're Hollywood.
only trouble. They should have called it the Trouble Club, not the Forum Club.
That was the Trouble Club, huh?
Yeah, I was working all the time. So, when the game was over, I was still working for another hour or two. I was a one-man show back then. So
right.
We did a lot of therapy after the game. By the time I would have had the chance to go up there, everybody was already gone. And that I didn't hang out up there. I was married. I had 2 children.
Sure.
There was nothing up there for me that would have. That's how I lasted 3 decades, man.
That's how you lasted, right? Not being.
That's how I lasted. I stayed out of the Forum Club.
There you go. That's the tip for those young players. You have to stay out of the clubs. Go home. No, that's good. Now, because I used to hear stories about the Forum Club and the stars going there and that velvet rope, I think it was. That was the big thing there for the Forum Club. But no, okay. So that's how you have the longevity, right, Gary?
To my knowledge, those stories are true, but they're all secondhand for me. I wasn't there. Let's talk about something else.
Understood. Now let's move on. So Guy, I want to talk briefly about the announcement documentary that talked about Magic Johnson, about his retiring, about his announcing the retirement of him because of the HIV virus. And I want to go back to a poignant point on that documentary that really dealt with you, Gary, in which, I remember there was a preseason game in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it was, everything was mandated. I would imagine that, if you're treating players, you have to wear gloves, and everything like that. And I remember there was a time because, there wasn't any knowledge of HIV. No one knew about it. No one knew about the virus. But
everyone was afraid of it.
Everybody was afraid, absolutely, because of, no education about it. We didn't know. But I remember the story about, you, Gary, during that preseason game, and Magic Johnson actually got cut. And I know it was the time in which, the mandate was, the trainers would come out, put your gloves on, and treat the player. Well, I noticed that you didn't put your gloves on, but you treated the player. And I think that was a pivotal moment in, how we deal with people here. So was that a conscious effort by you, to do that? Or was that a sporadic thing? Because, that really changed things there, I think, on a humanity point of view. Yeah, so I want to get your viewpoints on that, Gary. Was this spontaneous to you, or was something planned, or, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, here's how it went down, and that's probably the most significant chapter of the book.
Okay.
And especially when I say 32 years of titles and tears, that was probably the most tearful part of my career. So
yeah.
So here we have it that Magic converts seropositive for HIV, and he retires, and then we learn a little bit more, and he decides that he wants to play in the Olympics.
Right.
And so David Stern, and I credit David Stern a lot in how he handled the whole HIV controversy at the time. He really educated himself about what we knew about HIV and tried to educate the league. And so he lets Magic play in the All-Star game, and he's the MVP of the All-Star game. And the next thing, Magic wants to come back. He wants to play. And there's some players that are very, very vocal about not wanting to play with him. Mark Price. And
Karl Malone was another one. I remember him. That was big time.
We're very, very vocal. And the team, Mark Price played for the Cavaliers, and the team that we were playing at Chapel Hill were the Cleveland Cavaliers. Because in those days, you would match up players in the preseason. And so Brad Doherty went to North Carolina, and James Worthy went to North Carolina. They didn't play on the same team.
Right.
Well, people that lived in North Carolina were going to come and watch those guys play against each other.
Absolutely.
And that's how you fill an arena for a preseason game and make some money. And so, we fly across the country, and Magic plays in the game. And during the game, he gets a fingernail scratch. And basically, nobody notices it except for one of the players on our team, Sean Rooks. And he alerts me to it. And so the next dead ball, I call Eddie Rush over, who was one of the officials, and I said, one of our guys says that Magic's got an open cut on his arm. And so he goes over and looks at Magic, and Magic looks at his arm. Nobody sees anything. And he kind of waves it off. I said, okay, fine. And so then a couple of minutes later is a mandatory timeout, and I start getting nosy. And I go over and look at him, and I see this fingernail scratch. Now, we're talking about a non-bloody wound in a controlled situation. It's not like he's bleeding all over the place.
Right.
So let's really put this in perspective.
Right.
I know what I'm doing. I've had many sessions with doctors about how, what kind of protocols can we use, to treat a player that's bleeding. Let's just, it takes time to put gloves on for one thing, right? So let's say the player's bleeding. I got into the habit of taking out a sterile gauze pad and handing it to the player. Say, here, you put this on your own wound. Right. And while he's doing that, I put the gloves on, right? But we weren't even in a situation like that. This is a non-bloody wound. It's a timeout. It's a control situation. It's a full timeout. I have plenty of time. And I look up, and I see all the players staring at me. And the cameras are on me. And the first thing that goes into my head was not Karl Malone or Mark Price, but all these guys that played with Magic. He heard it in the media from guys on other teams. What he didn't know was that there were guys on his own team, his teammates, that were coming to me privately in the training room and saying, hey, are you sure it's okay that we're playing with this guy? Because we have to practice with him every day. These guys play against him a few times a year. I got to do this every single day. My wife, I'm going, yeah, don't worry about it. You can't get it that way. It's not a problem.
Right.
And I just knew that if I put those gloves on, it was going to send a mixed message to all the players on our team, to players around the world, to people around the world. It was just going to be a bad situation. And so I chose not to do it.
Wow.
And everything was fine. I used a 6-inch cotton tip applicator to put some stuff, tough skin we called it, to put some sticky stuff on his arm so that, when he sweat, the Band-Aid didn't fall off. And it's not like I was sticking my fingers in an open wound. And everything would have been fine except for what I saw in the eyes of everyone. Magic saw it too. And a couple of days later, he retired again.
Wow.
And then when he retired again, he was on the front page of every newspaper in the world.
Yeah.
But he wasn't alone. I was on the front page with him, without any gloves on.
Right.
And that's when the storm hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I got mostly fabulous letters.
Mm-hmm.
But I got some really nasty letters.
Mm.
David Stern was very upset with me. Jerry West was very upset with me because I broke code protocol.
Wow. Okay.
But I stood up and said, I did what I felt like I had to do. Now you have to do what you have to do. Meaning, if you're gonna fire me, fire me.
Very brave.
Like my mom said, that was very brave. And I would imagine, Gary, to this day, I would imagine Magic Johnson is so appreciative of that particular act as well, right?
We've never discussed it.
Wow, really?
Never come up. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, when he converted seropositive for HIV, we had a discussion, okay, the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But we never discussed the glove episode. There was a doctor in Rhode Island that filed a formal complaint against me with OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And that opened up a big can of worms because when OSHA, if you get a complaint from OSHA, they not only come in for that particular complaint, but that opens the door for them to come into your business and look at everything.
Wow.
And so they filed a complaint on me, but what it opened up was they came into the forum, which Dr. Buss owned the team and the forum, and they looked at all of the safety and health inspections at the forum, like things like, did you have a sign on the wall to wash your hands? Did you have a sign on the wall on how to correctly lift something heavy? All these things that and so, it was a burden. It became a burden for the team. And so it was what it was. It was a very stressful time, but I have in the back of the book, right after I retired, the commissioner, Adam Silver, wrote me, kind of emotional for me. He wrote me a beautiful letter about my actions.
Right.
And how that helped, it helped, take away from the stigma of HIV positive people. And that single letter, of all the things I have, all the memorabilia, jerseys and championship rings and all that, that single letter is my most prized possession of my career.
Man, that's amazing, because that shows to, Gary, that shows to that's a credit to your character there. And it's great that, Commissioner Silver recognized that, because I think that moment of bravery that you showed, I mean, that goes as far as today, even that happened back then. Man, that is phenomenal, man. And, it takes a great deal of courage to do what you did. Maybe you weren't even thinking about it at that time like that, but man, that was just a noble, courageous thing. That's why I had to bring that up, and mention about that, because I just thought it was a noble thing to do. Yeah. Well,
thanks. Words like bravery and that, I reserve those words for, people that are, soldiers and firemen and policemen. I think they do brave things. I think I did the right thing.
Right.
Whether you categorize it as a brave thing, I'm not sure that's the right word. I appreciate you saying it, the compliment. It means the world to me. I just can't say I did a brave thing. I just think I did the right thing. I mean, I did what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Okay? I'm not sure that makes anybody brave. When you do what you're supposed to do, that's not bravery. I mean, that's just doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And that's the way I look at that situation. The only thing is that some people didn't feel like that was the right thing to do, and as a result, that it caused me a great deal of strife
Yeah.
You know, when that happened.
Yeah, at that particular time. And you were going to say something, Mom? I'm sorry?
No, I was saying that it has to be in your heart.
Yeah.
It came from the heart.
Yeah, that was heartfelt. Yeah, and it was the right thing to do. And it's funny too, Gary. Like, I remember the time when Magic Johnson had that famous announcement. You know, the first time. I remember, you know, I played college basketball at Manhattan College, and I remember we were practicing, and I remember, you know, it came down. The coaching staff came down. We were stretching actually. The coaching staff came down and said, "Hey, you know, Magic Johnson is going to retire from the NBA. He has the HIV virus." And I know in the weeks beforehand, they said he had like flu-like symptoms, you know, so we knew he was kind of sick. But when that came down, I remember exactly where I was and everything, you know, so I can imagine that. And you were right there in the mix of that. So, man, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, we knew for about 2 weeks, Russ. There were 7 people that were in a need-to-know position on that.
Okay.
And rather than go through the whole thing, you know, you'll read it in the book.
That's right, it's in the book.
I talk about the entire situation. How, number one, how do we learn that he was HIV positive? Because that was not part of the screening for a normal NBA physical exam. You know, if the player asked us to test for HIV, we could, but we couldn't do it. It would have been a violation of their civil liberty, so we couldn't do that.
Right.
Nor did we want to. It wasn't even really on our radar at the time.
Sure.
So I described, you know, how we found out, and then where we were, where he was, where I was, the conversation that him and I had, and then, you know, who knew, who didn't know, how long. And then when the decision was finally made to make the announcement, how it was made, why it was made, I go through the whole thing. And,
right.
In the book.
In the book.
It was good for me. It was a good part of the book for me to write because it was sort of, I don't know, cathartic, you know, to get it off my chest after all these years. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, so Gary, man, you know, that's great stuff. And I want to ask you, has it been tough transitioning from being the head athletic trainer for the Lakers to retirement and then transitioning to be a author? Like, you know, has that transitional journey for you, has that been tough? Has it been, you know, a smooth transition? Talk to us a little bit about your many transitions that you're going through since you're on Transition Tuesday. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a planned retirement. It wasn't like spur of the moment. And just so people sort of understand, like how and why I retired. So the NBA is grueling. I mean, it's a grueling season. And, you know, as athletic trainers, at least in my situation then, I don't know what's going on now, you know, we make a base salary, and you know, you make a living, you know, pays your bills.
Right.
Where the real money is in the playoffs. When every round that you know go through in the playoffs, you know, you get a bump.
Right.
And it's a real bump, Russ. I mean, it's real money. It's significant money.
All right. Good.
So, okay. So what you're playing for, what you're working for, what you're playing for, is 2 things. You're working for playoff money, and you're working for your next contract. Okay. I always tell players, you know, you just signed a contract and you think you're getting paid to play for this contract. Let me tell you something, man. You are playing now for your next contract. You already signed that one. You're going to get that money.
Right.
Okay? You want to stay in the league, you better keep playing. Okay? Because some guys, once they sign the contract, then, you know, they disappear. Right.
Right.
So, but it's the same thing for anybody else in the league. And so it had been 4 years that we did not make the playoffs, and you know, Kobe was retiring, and you know, we were trying to acquire assets. You know, I talk about this in the book that the only places to be in the NBA, you either got to be at the top or you got to be at the bottom. The worst place to be in the NBA is in the middle. If you're at the top of the league, you're winning championships, you have a great team, you have assets on the team that you can trade, you have a team that free agents will want to come to, good free agents will want to come to win.
Right.
If you're at the bottom of the league, you can improve through the draft.
Right.
And you can develop those young kids and keep them, or develop them and trade them. You can trade the picks, but you can improve through the draft. If you're in the middle, you're destined to mediocrity.
You're stuck.
You don't have good enough players to trade. You're not bad enough to improve in the draft, so you're stuck there. So we knew that we had to tear it all down. And so, Mitch Kupchak and Jim Buss took a lot of criticism about signing Kobe to that huge contract, but that's what we needed to do.
Right.
Okay? Because we were, Kobe's last year in the league, we were and they still are, the second most valuable franchise in the NBA behind the New York Knicks.
I know, I can't understand that, but that's definitely fact.
Well, the Knicks own MSG, they own Madison Square Garden Network, so that's part of their value, so that's why they're such a valuable franchise.
Okay.
But the Lakers were the second most valuable, but we were the most profitable. And part of that was that people wanted to come and see Kobe play, even though it was the end of his career.
Right.
And so we're being really, really profitable, meaning ownership is making a lot of money. We're also losing, which means that we can get draft picks, which is what we did. We loaded the team with assets. We got under the salary cap, and everything was working as planned. But it was going to be years before, they were going to be in championship form. It's been 7 years since the Lakers have even been in the playoffs.
Wow, so that's been a tough transition, yeah.
Yeah, so I was there for 4 of those 7, and then I retired 3 years ago. So I knew I wasn't going to make any money. I had hit 62, I was full pension age, and so I could start collecting my pension, and then they hired me as a consultant for 2 years. And so I was able to get off the road, stay with the team as a consultant, be sort of involved in what was going on, and make as much money as I was if I was working 365 days a year. So it made all the sense in the world for me to step down, start spending more time with my family. I'm now a grandfather.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you. And I got to do some things that, I normally wouldn't have been able to do. And so it was a planned retirement. And if you plan things, then the transition, is in the planning. It's easier. If if you try to go cold turkey, you just wake up one day and say, I don't want to do this anymore. That's really, it's a very hard thing to do. One piece of advice I always give people, especially in professional sports in the NBA, is don't make a decision during the season, because the season is grueling, and you're like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just, blah blah blah. Wait till the season's over. Give yourself the off season, to recuperate, and then you can make a better decision. Okay? Because when you're in it, it's hard. It's a hard life.
Right.
And you say, I don't want to do it. But then once once the season's over, it's never really over for the athletic trainer. We still go to work every day in the off season.
Yeah.
But you don't have the stress and the pressure. By the time training camp comes around, you sort of recharged your battery and you're ready to go.
Right.
But I knew it was time. It's a different league, than what I had come into. The whole thing was different. We weren't going to win for a while, and there was just other stuff that I wanted to do, and one of those things was to write a book, and so I checked that off the things to do in the retirement list.
No, that's good. That's great advice too that you're providing too, Gary. And you touched upon it. You said you had a plan, for your transition. So you had a transition game plan, and that reminds me of a book You know, I wrote a book called Transition Game Plan. That's why I laugh at that, Gary.
I saw it on your website, man. I just gave you a plug.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, so that reminded me of that. No, that's so great advice. Hey, Gary, I got a person by the name of Chris Smooth Williams. He had a question for you. His question was, who was your favorite player from an opposing team that you liked or admired? Did you have any favorite players from an opposing team?
I write a chapter. There's a lot of guys that I really liked on opposing teams. You know, but what is the question? Is it a guy that I liked, or is it a guy that I respected? Because I didn't like Larry Bird very much, and I didn't like Isaiah Thomas very much.
You didn't like Isaiah Thomas? That was my favorite player growing up. I wore number 11 because of Isaiah, the player.
I write a whole chapter about him.
Oh, I can't wait to read that. All right.
Let me tell you about this kid. Okay, so it's 1987. Mm-hmm. So he comes in. I want to say he comes in the league, and they're like the doormat of the league. The Pistons.
Pistons,
And they can't win anything. But they're starting to get better, and they're getting better. But still, they got to get past the Celtics. They got to get past the Sixers, and they can't seem to do it in the Eastern Conference. And then in 1987, they come very, very close to beating the Celtics, but they don't.
Right.
And so the Celtics, show up to play the Lakers in the finals in '87. Well, guess who else showed up in LA? Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
So all of a sudden, he had just lost to the Celtics. What's he doing in our locker room? So every time I turn around, we're at practice, I see Isaiah. After the game, when the media would come in the training room, I'd see Isaiah. Okay, what's he doing? And him and Magic, and Mark Aguirre, they were like kissing each other on the cheek and all that stuff before the game. And they may have been kissing each other on the cheek before the game, but when the game started, it was a brawl.
It was a brawl,
out there with the Pistons.
Yeah, that's true.
So I figured out what he was doing, and I talk about it in the book. He was studying Magic. He was studying the Lakers. How is it, that Magic is going to the finals, and I can't get there. What is it? What is it about the team? What's the chemistry? What's the secret sauce? What's going on in there? And so then he gets them there. He gets them to the finals in '88.
Yeah.
And they got us down 3-2. It's game 6. The third quarter, he doesn't sprain his ankle, Russ. He blows his ankle out.
I remember that.
I saw it. I saw it after the game. It was as big of an ankle, swollen, horrible-looking ankle sprain, as bad as I had ever seen it in my career. But he did it in the third quarter, and he came back. In that game, he scored 43 points.
Yep.
He scored 26 in the fourth quarter on one leg, hobbling around.
Yep, absolutely.
We won that game. We won that game by 2 free throws at the end of the game by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was fouled by Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah, that was a questionable foul too, Gary. You got to admit now. I don't know about that foul. It looked like it.
I say it in the book that people in Detroit call it the phantom foul.
Yes.
But think about it. That foul doesn't happen, or Kareem doesn't make the free throws, they win the championship.
Yeah.
They would have won it, that game. Instead, they got to come back and play game 7. He's on one leg. He played the first quarter. I think he scored like 10 points in the first quarter, and he hobbled around, and we ended up winning the championship.
Right.
But it was one of the most courageous, guttiest performances that I had ever seen.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Love him, hate him, whatever you think about Isaiah, you cannot take that away from him. I have tremendous respect for him.
Okay, so Isaiah Thomas was that guy you respected. Hey, Gary, I got a question for you. Do you remember the one iconic moment I remember of you, Gary, was I think Magic got hurt in the playoffs, and I know you were going to escort him off the court, and he just kept flailing his arms. Like, I'm not getting off this court. But I just remember you trying to get him off the court. What was that? Was that during a championship run, or I forget when that was? Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was the three-peat year. So So we win the back-to-back 87 and 88. Now we're playing the Pistons in 89.
Right.
And Byron Scott ruptures his hamstring the day before the first game of the finals.
Right.
And then Magic, has a moderate hamstring strain.
Mm-hmm.
During, I think it was either game 2 or game 3.
Yeah.
And so I go out on the court, and you could see he's hobbled, and he describes to me, that he felt the pop, and that's a telltale sign.
Yes, yeah.
And so I put my arm around him, and I said, okay, let's go back in the training room and take a look. I said, most likely you're probably done for at least this game.
Right.
And he sort of, he's 6'9". I mean, he was 6'9". I think he was probably about 218 at the time.
Yeah, big guy.
He just tossed me aside like I was a rag doll.
Yeah, I remember that.
I ended up becoming sort of a comedy skit on TV between him and Arsenio Hall, where Arsenio became Magic and Magic became me.
Oh, really?
And then, Arsenio tossed him aside like he was me, telling him, hey, you shouldn't have treated Vitti that way in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But so that really happened. And, that's the way some guys react. It's you're playing for all the marbles, and and then the trainer tells you, "I'm taking you off the court." You don't want to hear it.
Nah, that's a tough pill to swallow. Yeah, to feel the competition.
Yeah.
Hey, so Gary, hey man, here's what you gotta do for me, Gary. I would appreciate this. Could you give me your top 5 greatest Lakers of all time? It doesn't have to be in any particular order, but I want to hear your top 5 greatest Lakers of all time.
All right, now you're talking about during my career or of all time?
Of all time. Give me your all time, and I'm sure a number of those players were probably during the time you in your career as well. But
yeah, I mean it's going to be obviously hard to limit it to 5.
Okay.
That's but. I believe, and I talk about this in the book, that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I can make an argument that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is not only the greatest basketball player to ever play the game, but he is the most accomplished athlete in any sport of all time. And if you look in the book, I list all the things that he accomplished. Okay? And it's an amazing life that this man had. Yeah. So he's going to be number 1 for sure.
Okay, and you know what too? Speaking of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, there, Gary, I got some parallels with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I went to Powell Memorial Academy. That's what high school he went to. Yeah. And the year I went there, the school was going to close after my freshman year. Someone broke into the school and stole his actual jersey that he played in at Powell Memorial. Somebody reclaimed it, and then I was practicing, so the coach was like, hey, do you want to go down to the TV station and just hold up the Powell Memorial jersey for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that just recovered? So I went down to CBS. Was holding the jersey of actually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So I went to Powell Memorial for a year. So that's one parallel I have with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That's a pretty cool thing. Did somebody take a picture of you holding the jersey?
I just the cameras. It wasn't cameras back then. Cell phones back then. But I'm sure it's some footage on CBS.
Yeah, that's too bad. You gotta see if you can get a picture of that.
Yeah, I gotta do that. Yeah, I was young then. I was a freshman then, but I was young.
Yeah.
But okay, so you said Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Who's your next one?
Yeah, Kareem's got to be one.
Okay.
You got to include going backwards, like you said, not necessarily in this order, but obviously Jerry West,
right,
is going to be on that Laker Mount Rushmore, and you got Magic Johnson has to be there, and then it starts getting really sticky because you have Wilt Chamberlain, you got Kobe Bryant.
Right.
So I think you got to go with those 2, and that makes 5. But then what do you do with Shaq.
Yeah. He comes off Shaq comes off the bench on your top 5 here, huh, Gary?
Okay. Well, it's see, and once again, I know I keep plugging the book, but
that's okay.
I have a whole chapter about Shaq, and you know how him and I got along, and many times did not get along.
Okay.
And I say in the book, and him, you know, him and I are very, very close today, and we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that I had with Shaq was that I wanted him to be the best more than he wanted to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem. That's a problem when you want something for somebody else more than they want it for themselves. Because when Shaq wanted to play, it was over. I mean, he you know, we went to the finals 3 times with him. He was the MVP of the finals all 3 times.
All 3 times, yeah.
You know, yeah. So if he wanted to play, you know, you couldn't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he wanted every rebound, he would have gotten every single rebound. You wouldn't have gotten one. I mean, if that's what he wanted. The problem is he didn't care about it that much. He cared about it just enough to win as much as he won.
Yeah.
But we probably should have been a team of a decade instead of, like, we imploded in 4 years, you know, when Phil came. And he was there for 4 years before Phil came, and we didn't win.
Yeah.
And so he had, you know, he should be one of those 5, but I can't put him up there because he didn't do what he could have done.
Yeah.
And I know he regrets it today as well. We've talked about this.
Okay.
And I tell you what, he's number 1. He may not be in the top 5 in basketball, but he's number 1 for helping young people fulfill their dreams. Okay? Shaq is one of the most magnanimous human beings I've ever met in my life. His generosity is beyond reproach. His approach to young people and wanting good things for young people and having young people follow their dreams, that was his goal, to be the best at that. And he has become the best at that. He's a great humanitarian. I can't express that enough to you. I would put him number 1 there, but I can't put him in the top 5 of basketball.
Gotcha. Is Shaq one of those players you have like one of the best personal relationships with? For those playing, you know, who were once Lakers?
Well, once again, I describe it in the book.
It's in the book. That's right. Yep. We're gonna plug away that book. Yep.
Okay. We started out great, but as soon as, you know, he started saying things like, he would come in the training room and say, you know, tell Phil I ain't practicing today. I said, I'm not telling him that. You tell him. It's your job to tell him. I said, Shaq, it's not my job. I said, if you were hurt or you were sick, then it becomes my job. And if you should have been here 2 hours ago when I opened the training room. If you don't want to practice, then you tell him. Just for that, I ain't talking to you for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And he didn't. He didn't talk to me for 2 weeks.
He didn't talk to you for 2 weeks.
No, we would have to communicate, so he would talk to somebody else that was like close to me, you know, so I could hear what he was saying. He wouldn't talk to me. And so then, you know, the way an NBA practice works is, you know, I open the training room like 2 hours before practice. We do all the therapy. We got some guys in the weight room, some guys in the training room, some guys are out in the gym doing skill work. And then at some point, I go, you know, when I get a good feel for, you know, what the health of the team is, then I go up to the war room, which is where all the coaches are sitting, and they're preparing their practice plan. And then I go up there and say, okay, here's what I think we got today. This guy, we can push him in practice. This guy, let's just get him to do the things that he absolutely needs to do, and then let's get him off the floor. No extra work for this, and et cetera. I go right down the list, tell them, what they can expect, from each guy physically. And so then, I would come back down, and then, and I get their game, their practice plan. I come down and talk to the players and say, okay, I talk to the coaches. Here's what we expect from you today. And so, just like you're saying that you have to have a plan to transition. Well, that's what we're doing. We're transitioning day to day, transitioning game to game. You're transitioning from the locker room to the training room to the basketball court. And so if you have a plan and you tell the players what the plans are, then they can, psychologically and physically sort of adapt to what, is being expected of them that day. And so I would still talk to Shaq even though he wouldn't talk to me. And so I would go to him and say, hey, listen, here's what I expect, you can do on the practice court today. He got a dry erase board, okay, and he wrote 3 responses, okay, and he would keep it in his locker. And I can't tell you what they are.
I got you.
All right.
That's right.
And so I would say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and he'd hold his finger, like his index finger up, like, wait a second. He'd turn around and get his dry erase board and then look at it, and then show me the board, and then like put 2 fingers up, like answer number 2. and so it wasn't all fun and games, you know what I mean? Because I had to make him do stuff he didn't want to do, and but also it's not easy to stand up to a guy like that.
Yeah, that's true. An opposing force like that, and what's funny too, Gary, is we seen Kobe Bryant, as Chris mentioned. Kobe Bryant was talking about how Shaq would have just got his fat ass in shape and worked out with you and trained and everything. They would probably have 12 titles, So
we were. That's why we were all pissed at him.
Yeah,
all the time,
Yeah, because he relied so much on Kobe, because Kobe was in the gym working out. So he was like, hey, I don't need to do that because Kobe's going to take care of that. So,
but there is also parts of him. As angry as you would want to be because he wasn't working as hard as he should, there was parts of him that you absolutely just loved about him. I mean, he filled the room. He just filled the room with love, and laughter many times. I mean, he filled it with a black cloud sometimes too. But he decided that he wanted to go to the police academy. He wanted to become a cop.
Right.
And so, now this becomes like his main thing, and how he would manifest this in the training room is he would walk in the training room. Now he's 7 feet, 358 pounds.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'm 5'9", at the time, maybe 180, 185. Right. He would grab me by the back of my collar and literally like a rag doll toss me up against the wall and say, up against the wall, okay? and then he would frisk me like I was a criminal.
He was practicing on you, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And he made sure he had an audience, okay? He made sure that the training room was full, you know what I mean? And so, he's got me, he's got a hand around my neck, and his other hand is frisking me. And, he's yelling at me, what do you got here? You got drugs on you? You got a gun on you? That kind of thing.
Right.
And the first time he did it, it was funny. It was cute. And it was cute for a while. And then one morning he came in, and I really wasn't in the mood. I was really busy. And I said, hey, man, not today. I'm busy. And he said, what? And he threw me up against the wall, and he started frisking me. And with his right hand and with his left hand, he reached around the front of my face, and so I bit him. I bit him on the hand. Okay. And he pulls his hand away from me, turns around, looks at everybody, and he yells at the top of his lungs. He goes, he's resisting arrest. And he went to punch me, and I saw the punch coming, and it wasn't. Believe me, it wasn't a full punch.
Right.
But even his like half punch. I turned my body, and he caught me just right in the back of my pelvis. I had to get 2 injections.
Whoa!
To walk. Yeah.
Man!
Yeah. I mean, he was playing around, but I mean, you know, it was a test.
Dang,
Be around him every day, man. I mean, you didn't know what was coming through that door.
Right, yeah, man. Man, is that story in the book, Gary?
Oh yeah, it's in there. It's in there. I got, you know.
I know you got tons of stories. I know that.
Yeah, it's a book of stories and very little about myself. I was told by book people that you have to write, you know, 1 chapter about yourself so they know who's telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that. But all the other stories are not about me.
Right.
They're about the great champions. They're the lessons that I learned about life from the great champions that I worked with, and not necessarily from their athletic prowess.
Mm.
Some of the stories, a lot of the stories about their personal lives and how they dealt with adversity. And you know, I talk about that. That's really the true test of one's character, is when things are going bad.
Yeah.
Okay? Not when everything's going your way.
Right.
It's easy to be, you know, good when stuff's going your way.
That's true.
When
Yeah.
stuff starts going bad, how do you handle it? How do you react? How do you, you know, things like how do you treat people? I do a chapter about, you know, you can tell a lot about someone by how they treat someone else that can do nothing for them. You know, we had players that were downright cruel to, you know, people like janitors and you know, towel boys and stuff like that. And on the other hand, we had players that were just wonderful human beings, and not only, you know, knew that person's name, knew how many children that they had, you know, things like that, treated them with tremendous respect. I mean, that goes a long way in a locker room.
Absolutely.
And in life in general.
Yeah. And you know what? Just reading your book, like I just started your book, Gary. The great thing about your book is you don't really have to be a sports fan to really enjoy your book. I mean, because of the lessons that you give in the book.
Yeah, I say that, I think, at the very beginning. I say you don't have to be a Lakers fan or a basketball fan or even a sports fan. You know, there are lessons, and what happened in my life is basically I learned these lessons, and then I came home and taught them to my 2 daughters. And as they got older, and you know, they got witty, and they started calling. They would look at each other and they go, "That's a GV gem. That's one of Dad's GV gems."
Oh,
so,
okay. They call it the GV gem. Okay, I gotcha.
GV gems. So the lessons are GV gems, and you know, that's what my daughters call them, and so I call them that in the book, basically.
Oh, that's good. Hey, so Gary, how can my audience get your book? Let's, you know, how can they get your book there, guy?
Okay, so you just go to Amazon.
Okay.
And in the search box, put my name.
Okay.
And it'll pop up. It's in paperback or it's in Kindle.
Okay.
And you know, if you like the book, give it a review. If you don't, then keep it to yourself.
But you'll get a lot out of it, though. You'll get a lot out of it, and the book is called, again, guys. The book is called 32 Years of Titles and Tears from the Best Seat in the House. And last question I got for you, Gary. I know this might be tough to answer, but how would you like to be remembered?
Well, you know, that's interesting. You know, for me, it was trying to be the best I could be every day of my life, no matter how I felt, like what was going on in my personal life. When I walked into the training room, you got the best out of me, whether you were the first guy on the team, on the roster, or the 15th guy on the roster. And probably the other thing is I told everybody, I will never lie to you. but I will also never lie for you. And I mean that's the way that I treated the players, and I talk even about it in the book about how I was with management, with Jerry West, with the coaches, with Mitch Kupchak, because see those guys, they're all upstairs usually. The practice sites, usually the offices are on the second floor, and then basketball, the training room, the weight room, the basketball courts, the players' lounge, the locker room, all that stuff is on the first floor. And so my office is in the training room. So I'm embedded with the players. I'm with them all the time.
Right.
The coaches come down for 2 hours of practice, and then they go back to where they came from.
Right.
And so, I'm the eyes and ears of everything. And that doesn't mean you run upstairs and tell the general manager everything, and I had a great relationship with Jerry West that then led to a great relationship with Mitch Kupchak. And it was, sometimes I would go up and say something and they would say, who? And I said, well, I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you that there's something going on. You don't need to know what player it is. Let me work on it and reel him back in. And then other times, I would go up and tell them who, what, when, and where. And then other times I wouldn't say anything at all. There might be something going on, but, let's not overreact to it. Nobody needs to know yet. Because you can sour a coach, or a general manager on a player. All you got to do is tell them a couple things. And, if they already are kind of trying to distance themselves from that guy, you can give them an excuse to get rid of him. You don't really want that. You want to give the player the best chance that he can be the best at. You don't want to manipulate his life. Let him manipulate his own life.
Right.
And so it was that to management, and to the players it was what I said. I said, listen, man, and I tell them what I just told you about. So listen, this is how I handle stuff. Okay? Sometimes I go up there and tell them everything. Sometimes I tell them stuff, but I don't give up a name. Sometimes I don't say anything. I said, so don't put me in a position where I got to go up there and tell them, about what you're up to. Just come in here and do your job, do the right thing, and everything's going to be fine. And it gives us a chance to win if everybody is on the same page doing the right thing. And
right.
I won't lie to you, but I also won't lie for you. I mean, if you're making a mess of things, then you're going to have to, you can choose to do that, but it comes with consequences. So I was, like everything I overly answer things. I apologize. It was probably
no, that's okay. No.
A short answer to how I want to be remembered, but honest guy that gave, everything he had on every given day.
Right. And just talking to you, Gary, this brief time we had a chance to talk, you seem like a great guy of integrity, and that's how you last for 32 plus years. That's the bottom line, with the integrity of it. So, hey, Gary, man, GV, I appreciate you coming on Transition Tuesdays today, my man. Much success to you on the book and your future endeavors. And next time we talk, I'm going to get your other list. I want to get your top 10 like all-time Laker people. Let's exclude basketball. Let's talk about people in that organization. But we'll talk about that another time.
That sounds good, Russ. Thanks for having me, and I wish you all the best. And I'll be keeping an eye on your website and your book, and I'll keep tabs on you and stay in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and we're going to keep plugging your book as well, too. It's a great read, and you can learn a lot of lessons from it, from the maestro. I call you.
All right. And your mom. Thanks, Mom, for listening and participating. Nice to meet you, albeit over the telephone.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you so much. And come back to the East.
I'm coming to visit for sure.
That's about it, right, Gary?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks again, Gary. We appreciate you, my man.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. All right, bye-bye. Wow.
Yeah.
Gary Vitti.
No.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. And I hope everybody, my apologies, guys, if I couldn't reach out to you, but we were talking to Gary. which was good, man. Good stuff, man. Very good stuff. Gary Vitti, a legend. And again, his book, I'm going to plug the book because it's a great read. 32 years of titles and tears from the best seat in the house. That's Gary Vitti. Dropping some GV gems.
For the Lakers.
Yeah, for the Lakers. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's really good, man. Hey, Ma, and everybody out there, if we were able to make you laugh, smile, or think during our broadcast today, my good friends, you have accomplished something major today. So celebrate your victory. Right, Ma?
Right,
celebrate your victory,
celebrate your victory.
Yeah, it's a great victory having Gary Vitti on. Again, thank you, Gary, for coming on as well. And celebrate that victory. Celebrate. So, hey, Ma, I want to thank you for being the co-host this week. I know we missed you last week. I'm glad you were a part of this week. So, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Nah, no problem. And I want to thank everybody for watching Transition Tuesdays. Great show today. Again, I'm going to post it on our YouTube page on Transition Tuesday. I'm going to post the show so you get a chance to re-see this again, the interview. And as we always say in parting here, ladies and gentlemen, happy transitioning, and we'll speak to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.